I would argue that identifying as a Nazi alone implies that, yeah, maybe he shares a mindset of people who literally exterminated millions of Jews. Not to mention his statement that you have to put Jews in their place and make them into your slaves, something that he then followed up with this. He said, Jews were better as slaves. You have to put Jews in their place and make them into your slaves. He then said, sometimes you have to do it like the pharaohs. Make your Jews work for you, but watch them as close as you can. Whip your Jews. Whip your Jews as you treat them like slaves. What does that mean? Is that ambiguous? Is that freedom of speech? Or is that a clarion call to commit acts of violence against Jewish people?
Piers Morgan and his panelists discuss Kanye West's recent anti-Semitic screed on X in this clip. I'd like to watch it along with you. I'll have some opinions of my own. And then I want to know what you think in the comments. But let's just jump right into it together, shall we?
Let me start with you, Myron, because you and I got into a little Twitter exchange yesterday about free speech. And it seems to me, with Kanye and this tirade that's went on for days, there are two debates to be had. One is whether what he was doing was contrary to X's own rules by the same definition that they have suspended millions of accounts. And I posted a graph showing why people got suspended, a lot of it for harassment, hateful conduct, and so on. So I think there's literally no dispute or doubt that he did. So the question remains, why was he then not suspended, but able to leave voluntarily? But the wider debate that I think you and I were having was about freedom of speech and where that begins and ends. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you seem to be suggesting that you don't think there is an end. In other words, you can say absolutely anything you want, to which I would say, well, I don't think you should be able to say to 32 million people on a platform that you want to make Jewish people your slaves and whip them. Do you?
Well, I think the thing is, when Elon took over X, he wanted to mirror it with the First Amendment. And the First Amendment allows a broad range of speech to be allowed. And the reality is, if we don't have free speech, we don't have a democracy. And that's literally from Elon Musk himself. Now, if we want to talk about unequal punishment on X, based on some people saying this and getting punished and people saying this and not getting punished, that's a whole other conversation. But I think if you're going to mirror the First Amendment with Twitter, then you need to allow that speech in.
Right, but look, on the first point about X's rules, he clearly transgressed pretty much every rule they have. I think that's unarguable. So it's for Elon to explain why in the end he was only censored, which he was, because he posted legal pornography. It seems to me extraordinary that legal pornography is deemed to be more offensive and more worthy of censorship than saying that you should make Jews your slaves and whip them. So let me bring in on that, Zuby. You and I have debated free speech many times, but on that specific point, I mean, do you view the publication of legal pornography on X as better or worse than what he said about making Jews slaves and whipping them?
If I'm being honest, I think it's all bad. I don't think that hardcore pornography should be on X. If I'm being honest, it's not on any other social media platform, and a big reason for that is because kids use these platforms. And if you've got that many followers and you start posting pornography, then naturally you're going to get some minors seeing it. And so that in itself is a problem. When it comes to inciting violence or calling for violence, I think it's fair to say that he did cross that line. I mean, if you're saying to whip a certain race or ethnic group of people, whether he's pretending, and you've got the wider context of everything he's been saying beyond that, you'd have to go through it post by post. I think a lot of them, vast majority of them, I'm not a fan of. I would condemn what he's saying, but I would support his right to free speech. But when it comes up to the point of calling for violence, which he did in that specific one that you brought up, then yeah, that's a clear violation. I don't run X. I'm not Elon. I'm not a moderator. So I'm not in charge of that. I'm a very staunch advocate for freedom of speech.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a line.
And there has to be a line, right? There has to be a line. Is there anybody really honestly arguing that there should be absolutely no parameters on free speech? Obviously, it's a slippery slope, right? Obviously, if you start persecuting people who disagree with those in power, and that's not as far-fetched or weird these days, that's oppression and that's anti-democratic. But calling for violence, he's got millions of followers. The example is yelling fire in a crowded theater, right?
It sounds like you share my view. I mean, bringing in the rabbi here. I mean, Rabbi, if I was Jewish, I'm not. I'm an Irish Catholic. If I was Jewish, I'd have been utterly sickened by the constant tirade of blatantly anti-Semitic garbage that was being spewed by Kanye West.
Well, you can still be sickened by it, right? You don't have to be Jewish in order to be sickened by it.
How are you feeling?
First of all, you're an honorary Jew because you've really supported Israel through this war, and we're grateful, Piers. Tolerating the intolerable is the liberalism of fools. You can speak about being a free speech absolutist, but there must be three exceptions: incitement to violence, commission of violence, and admission of violence. What's missing from this discussion is not that Kanye said that Jews should be whipped. It's that Kanye said that he has beaten women, and he said that women should be slapped, and his wife is in an abusive relationship, and Bianca Sensori's family, who live in Melbourne, Australia, have done nothing to rescue her. Are we talking about whether there should be pornography on X? There was pornography at the Grammys. Professional lip readers had him tell his wife, Bianca Sensori, take your mink coat off, and she is totally glassy-eyed. There is no free agency. She's an abused wife. She's an abused woman. How is the media becoming complicit in the absolute degradation and humiliation of this woman who he claims to have dominion over? And he says he slaps her around, and he says that he has practiced violence against women. Where is law enforcement? Why hasn't he been arrested? Why hasn't there been an investigation? Where is the rest of Hollywood and the Grammys to condemn violence against women? The two most targeted victims groups in history are Jews and women, and notice that Kanye, the ultimate bully, goes after both. And let me say one final thing. I utterly reject any belief that Kanye is sick. He is not. He is wicked. There's a big difference. He knows when to turn it off. At the Grammys, he was completely normal. He wasn't there and naked in any way. It was all about his wife. He didn't lose it. He said, you're going to get a lot of attention. Everything he does is willful. It is motivated by a desire for attention, building his businesses. He is not crazy. That is an excuse. He is wicked and he is evil.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to this, choke, no joke, that one of the most offensive things he did for me in his defense of Diddy, for example, he suddenly produced a T-shirt which was a scene from the hotel lobby or the corridor where Diddy had beaten up one of his girlfriends, and it had her in the picture. Right, this was literally a crime scene of appalling domestic abuse that we all saw the video, and he's trying to sell a T-shirt based on it. Now, that alone, to me, crossed any kind of line that should be tolerable for social media.
Yeah, well, first of all, how you doing, Piers? Thanks for having me back.
Good to see you.
All right. Like the rabbi said, Kanye is just doing all this for attention. You know, he's not the topic of discussion in hip hop no more. The Super Bowl was going on. It was Kendrick's moment. He's trying to steal his shine because it's not about him. It's about Kendrick and Drake right now. And he is an embarrassment to the black man. You know, he is a pure embarrassment to the black community. 97% of us don't approve of what he's doing. He's disrespectful to women. I promise you, no disrespect to the Caucasian woman, but if that was a strong, sophisticated black woman, she would not have took her clothes off on that red carpet to satisfy Kanye chasing clout, which is fame or the spotlight. And I know Kanye. I was there the day he got signed at Rockefeller. I met his mother. I've been in his apartment. I know the humble Kanye that fame, once he's allegedly sold his soul to this game, he became this dark person. And what, like the rabbi said, what he's doing is very evil. I don't think that's freedom of speech. What he's doing, that can incite a riot, that can incite a hate attack on the Jewish community. And all he's doing it for is attention. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just mad because he's not relevant right now.
You know what? I agree. In fact, when I interviewed him at length over a year ago, you know, he categorically denied that he had any mental illness. And I also asked him if he had any regrets, because he'd been through a storm about abusing Jewish people before, about saying he wanted to go DEFCON 3, DEATH, DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And I asked him if he regretted it. Let's see what he said. You've now changed what you wanted to say originally. My question for you is, do you now regret saying DEFCON 3 on Jewish people? Are you sorry you said that?
No.
I don't think it matters. You should be.
Absolutely not.
When you insult the Jewish people and say you're going DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people, that is as racist as anything you say you've been through and any pain that you've experienced. It's the same thing. Racism is racism. And you know that, I think, don't you?
Yeah, obviously. That's why I said it.
So you said it knowing it's racist?
Yes. I fought fire with fire.
Okay.
I'm not here to get hosed down.
At least that's
It's a
honest.
different type of freedom fighter. I will say I'm sorry for the people that I hurt with the DEFCON, the confusion that I call. I feel like I cause hurt and confusion. And I'm sorry for the families of the people that had nothing to do with the trauma that I had been through. And that I use my platform where you say hurt people. And I was hurt.
But the truth is, he wasn't sorry about the hurt. Otherwise, he wouldn't have carried on doing it for the last 3 days.
It's interesting to me, the topic of, is he crazy or is he not, right? Is he using mental health as an excuse and a shield? Or is it just calculated publicity stunts, and the more outrageous the better, and deliberately pushing the lines with potentially harmful consequences? I did another video on this clip. The whole thing is on Piers Morgan's channel. It's an hour long. As these videos tend to, it devolves into sort of a shouting match between the panelists. I did another video on that that's a little more... Anyway, I did another video on that. You can check that out on this channel as well if you'd like. But let me know what you think in the comments.